Tatsumaki was the first hero to learn about the upcoming Monster Association raid. Zombie Man was next. After his raid on the House of Evolution took a strange, Saitama-focused turn, destroying an evil organization was exactly what he wanted to do. Puri Puri Prisoner was outraged over the monsters using a cute boy as a hostage. Big God just ate a bun. Flashy Flash was ready to deal with the monsters himself, but followed the association's decision to gather a team. Darkshine was in the middle of working out and was ready to go right away. Soon, they were all assembled. But Tatsumaki wasn't happy, since even with 6 of them, they were still told to wait, and to do so with the enemy's base within view. Child Emperor assumed she wanted to stay in a hotel or something, so he explained that the damage from a giant meteor destroyed all the buildings. That's the same meteor Saitama destroyed, by the way. But that's obviously not what Tatsumaki meant. She didn't see the point in having so many S-class heroes. According to Child Emperor, the human monster Garo was tough for even Bang to deal with, and there are 16 other monsters on his level. He asked Tatsumaki if she really believed she could handle all of them by her lonesome. For the Esper, that went without saying. The 10-year-old concluded that she is a total brat. He asked her to settle down for now, since Sitch was contacting a few more heroes. They needed to know their odds of victory. Since Bang, Genos, and King hadn't responded to their calls, the Hero Association had to acknowledge the possibility that they may have been hunted by Garo. If so, then the situation may be far more dire than they realize. Tatsumaki believed the boy genius was just overestimating the situation, and assumed that they were all just busy eating dinner or something, which they totally were. They were all at Saitama's place for hot pot. Tatsumaki also grumbled about King getting special treatment just because he's a little strong, but that seemed to be enough to get her to back off. To himself, Child Emperor was sure that King could never be hunted. Meanwhile, thanks to some hot pot shenanigans, the phones Genos and Bang received from the association got wet and were broken. Saitama wondered how long King was going to sleep on his floor. Then he realized that the guy might have died. Eventually, the heroes entered the base. Gyoro telepathically detected them the moment they did. They showed up sooner than expected, but the Esper would keep track of them. In the meantime, Royal Ripper would stay with the hostage and have a bit of fun. The other monsters noticed their absence. Tadeo could only scream for help as the monster cornered him. That's when something came crashing through the wall. Ripper turned. He lashed out after recognizing the intruder. Garo caught and severed the blade with a bloodied hand. With a single punch, Ripper's head flew as his other blade pierced its target. A mangled Garo told Tadeo that it was time to go, while claiming his prize. He used Ripper's clothes to wrap and bind his wounds. Tadeo asked him how he knew about the place. Garo claimed that it's because he's a monster. Now, normally, they'd run away, but Garo expected Goro to send someone after them. And just like that, a massive canine monster loomed over them. The monster unleashed a devastating breath attack. Now, Garo had no choice but to run. This is Overgrown Rover, a disaster-level dragon monster. Garo caught his breath and prepared himself for what would come next. This monster was the real deal. The next attack would not be easy to dodge. So Garo braced himself. Several more volleys were launched in his direction, but he raced ahead all the same. Rover's bombardment was ceaseless. Garo did his best to take it, but the monster's firepower was overwhelming. Rover could release them as easily as a dog barks. The battlefield crumbled around them. The dust obscured Garo's presence. He leapt down from above and landed on the unsuspecting monster's face and let it know that it was messing with the wrong guy. Then he punched and told the mutt to sit. Now Rover was the one being launched. The ground was shattered and Rover began falling into the abyss below, with Garo coming along for the ride. Child Emperor could hear the chaos inside the base and was pleased by the unexpected development. Now that Sweet Mask, Atomic Samurai, and his disciples, the 3 other top A-class heroes, were around, the raid was ready to begin. And all the noise from Garo's fight even made its way to Saitama's home, which was really annoying to the bald hero. The area is supposed to be abandoned, so Genos wondered if it might be Speedo Sound Sonic back to cause more trouble for his master. With this being an industrial area, Fubuki was pretty sure that explosive chemicals were all over the place. Saitama's ability to live here at all was a miracle. Hearing that, Bang offered to let Saitama live in his dojo from now on. Saitama suited up and decided to find out who was making so much noise in his neighborhood. He already missed out on dinner. Now something was getting in the way of his sleep. Saitama knew that if his day got any worse, he might end up destroying the earth. Meanwhile, Garo braced himself against another monster's onslaught. Gyoro was surprised by Garo's brazen betrayal. Garo wasn't sure which face he should speak to, but refused to join forces with what he deemed to be false monsters. The Esper mocked the Musclehead and affixed him in place. The monster's psychic power was on full display. It even claimed to be a god who surpasses even Tatsumaki and Fubuki. It used telekinesis to hit Garo with a barrage of high-speed debris. Garo wasn't impressed, but he was happy to know that he was facing the leader of the Monster Association. And he also noticed that when the freak attacked, his binding faded for a moment. Clearly, the monster couldn't use the moves simultaneously. Since he could put up his guard just as quickly, Garo let the monster know that binding him was pointless. And he was actually pretty glad that he fell down. While the other monsters searched for intruders above, he can deal with their boss. Gyoro knew that Garo was betting on Tadeo running away while he fought Rover, but the brat was still lost and roaming above. So it was only a matter of time before a monster would find and destroy him. That caught Garo off guard. In the next moment, he was torn apart by overwhelming force. Once he lost focus, Gyoro severely increased the gravity around him. With so many guests arriving, the monster couldn't entertain him for too long. It was time to face the Hero Association. Elsewhere, a pair of robot siblings encountered one of the intruders. The ninja hero skulked towards them. The older model warned his brother of the impending danger. He recognized Flashy Flash. The shinobi didn't say a word. In an instant, the robot brothers showed up behind him. These are the Hot Rod brothers, Gale and Hellfire, and speed was their specialty. Or at least it was, before Flashy Flash claimed their heads. Flash believed he was too fast to boast about his speed like a minor character. In the manga version, the Hot Rod brothers are the ninja duo, Gale Wind and Hellfire Flame. Elsewhere, Child Emperor was reviewing their 9 invasion routes and the heroes sent to each of them. On Route I, he ran into a bird monster with a man's face at the center. This is Phoenix Man. He wasn't able to remove his bird costume and ended up becoming a monster. Being above disaster level demon, Phoenix Man had big plans for after the Hero Association's destruction. He lashed out with his beak. To that, a variety of tools branched out from Child Emperor's bag, and they quickly went to work. The Birdman was torn to shreds just as fast. Child Emperor was totally unfazed. In the manga version, these 4 pages became 3 official chapters and a whopping 7 redraws. Over on Route B, another hero was told to stop. The monster princess, Goddess Glasses, would turn him into her 1000th slave. She launched her Brainwash Heart Beam. Her power surrounded the man. It didn't matter how strong he might be against her charming attack. But the monster's gloating was interrupted. The monster's head was slammed into a wall with tremendous force. Sweet Mask made it clear that that sort of thing wouldn't work on him. Then he sentenced the creature to death. In the manga version, this character is the monster Do S. On Route G, a vampire was cackling and complaining about the foul-tasting blood of the hero he just defeated. But although he was beaten, Zombie Man sure wasn't dead. He got up like the Undertaker with a pistol in hand. The vampire admired the hero's spirit, but claimed that it was pointless. This is Vampire Pureblood, a disaster-level demon and the self-proclaimed strongest real monster in the Monster Association. He hails from a long line of vampires. Because of that, Zombie Man lamented the end of a bloodline, but told the vampire to drop dead all the same. Zombie Man emptied the clip. Pureblood was underwhelmed. He's pretty used to catching bullets by now and made a show of it. It was clear to Zombie Man that he would need to work for the kill here. He told the vampire to prepare himself for a dirty fight. Half an hour went by. In that time, the battlefield became unrecognizable. Zombie Man was the only one standing, and he had an axe in his hand. The vampire croaked that his opponent should have died so many times over. And Zombie Man agreed. He was fatally wounded about 200 times. He hadn't fought such a strong monster in a long time, so he was pretty tired. He'd need about 3 minutes to heal, so Zombie Man decided to take a break. On Route F, there was the Great Food Tub, a disaster-level demon and self-proclaimed gluttony monster who would devour all the heroes. Moments later, he was swallowed by Pig God. The heroes were 35 minutes into the raid and winning. In the manga version, the Great Food Tub was a giant bearded dragon. Over on Route D, Bug God attacked. This was his 5th attack, and so far, his opponent was only hardening and standing still. He wondered if the hero was giving up. Why wasn't Super Alloy Darkshine fighting back? Well, when they met, the monster claimed to be invincible, and said that he possesses the exponential strength to size ratio of an insect. Darkshine believed that he was worthy of the distinction himself, so the thought of a monster making it to that point before him was really discouraging. Even so, he wanted to experience it. But it turned out to be overwhelmingly underwhelming. And despite being an insect monster, he was totally missing a dark shine. That was the worst. Bug God was really thrown off. Was the hero trying to say that he was testing his strength? Regardless, Darkshine's muscles began to ripple as he complained about it again. He explained that although his abilities are straightforward, they're at least above Bug God's. He added that there are 3 heroes that should never be angered: King, the strongest being on Earth, Tatsumaki, and himself. Hearing that, Bug God locked in and promised to show the hero what happens when he gets angry. Tremendous power surged through both of them, but Bug God made the first move, promising to skin the hero. He rapidly assaulted the hero's chest with all the strength he could muster. But Darkshine obliterated the chitinous creature with a single climactic crash. To Darkshine, the thought of someone scarring his flesh was ridiculous. On Route C, a hole was cut in the ceiling. Iaion, Bushidrall, and Okama Itachi dropped down in sync, alerting a monster. This was Devil Longhair, a disaster-level demon monster who was expecting them. He suddenly grew his hair to attack. Somehow, Okama Itachi was sure the monster was flirting and had to resist the urge to indulge in forbidden love between a monster and a human. Longhair's abilities were still unknown, so Iaion told Okama Itachi to hurl an air blade to test the monster's reaction. But Okama was sweating and not listening. Because of that, Bushidrall yelled at the fool, and Okama figured he was just jealous. Drill was ready to switch opponents, but Iaion rejected that. Annoyed, he told Okama that messing around would upset their master. They were finally given permission to act on their own, so they needed to live up to the expectations of the S-class swordsman. The monster just watched them. Reluctantly, Okama agreed. The maiden at heart apologized to the nice man while unsheathing a sword. Unfortunately, his feelings would not be reciprocated. It was time for an air blade. With a swift sweeping arc, the air was cut and a blade of wind was released. To Iaion, it looked like the work of gods. But Longhair wasn't nearly as impressed. His hair caught the attack. It was clear to the monster that the A-class heroes knew nothing about the terror of hair. Iaion couldn't believe it. The monster really stopped the air blade with his hair, and what he said wasn't clever at all. Just then, blood gushed from Okama's mouth. The sword wielder was skewered by several strands of hair. As Longhair's dialogue continued to be just as witless as his hair was dangerous. Iaion and Bushidrall were prepared for the barrage and rushed in together. While over on Route H, Tatsumaki asked a monster if it was the leader of the Monster Association. Gyoro spread its hands in greeting. The monster welcomed the infamous Esper. Then it unleashed its power and introduced itself as Psychos, the future king of the new monster-ruled world. Rubble was telekinetically launched at Tatsumaki from all directions, but it all just crashed into her barrier. Tatsumaki moved forward while confirming that this is in fact the boss of the monsters. Psychos couldn't believe it. Even against the monster's full power, Tatsumaki didn't have a scratch on her. And now it was Tatsumaki's turn. The monster immediately lost an arm. As it screamed and freaked out, Tatsumaki explained her hero name, Tornado of Terror. She demonstrated with the monster's severed arm. Suddenly, the limb looked like it was inside an invisible blender. Psychos was aghast. Tatsumaki was far worse than the rumor said. She is clearly stronger than her sister Fubuki. So Psychos needed to do something quickly. The monster used its supreme gravity wave technique. It was meant to flatten Tatsumaki like it did against Garo. But instead of breaking, the Esper laughed. According to Tatsumaki, Psychos' refined use of telekinesis was textbook perfect. So she wondered who taught the monster. She shredded the screaming monster's head in an instant. Then she promised to rip out its main body. Psychos totally underestimated Tatsumaki's abilities. The difference between her and Fubuki was way too big. Now Psychos knew for sure that it was too soon to challenge her. Then horribly, the person inside the monster was forcibly removed. Tatsumaki suspected that this person was Fubuki's friend. Elsewhere, Fubuki began to sweat as she sensed her sister nearby. Genos was in the middle of writing and had no idea what she was talking about. Fubuki explained that she could feel her sister using her powers to fight someone, and the thought of Tatsumaki using this much power was unbelievable. Hearing that, Genos deduced that the noise they heard earlier must have been from a monster, one strong enough to fight Tatsumaki. To himself, Bang wondered if Garo may have returned for revenge. He should still be wounded from their battle, but anything is possible when it comes to Garo. That's when King pulled out his phone and shared the news. While he was sleeping, the S-Class heroes received an emergency summons. The long night continued. The swordsman trio fought fiercely for a while and were breathing hard. Just then, Longhair spoke of his greatest weakness, his hair, which had been thoroughly cut. Then he collapsed. Okama Itachi was surprised they won. After all, they just ran in and gave the guy a haircut. Iayan acknowledged the strength of their opponent. Bushido pointed out that it took all three of them to just barely win. Without their experience as a team, they would have been overwhelmed and lost. If the other monsters are as strong as this one, then it would certainly be a tough battle. Even so, Iayan didn't see any point in worrying about their master. On Route E, Puri Puri Prisoner, even in his angel form, had been beaten in one hit. The ominous hunter of heroes stood before him. At the same time, Tadeo was being chased by a monster and begging to be saved. This is Black S, a disaster-level dragon monster who promised to only kill the kid and do so quickly. But just then, something interrupted him. The S-Cell leapt to avoid a sudden tear through the ground. And when he landed, a man with a sacred sword complimented his speed. The monster wasn't happy about nearly being caught. He asked if the hero was looking for a fight. When Atomic Samurai proudly proclaimed his arrival, Black S asked the hero if he thinks they're in a stage play. The swordsman laughed. To him, it's only natural that a hero and a monster would strive to kill each other. Black S was sure that the human was looking down on him. The monster's form suddenly extended. He was now part of a towering arm-shaped appendage. Black S wondered if the hero was still going to look down on him. And even while looking up, Atomic Samurai sure was. Winning looked easy to him. Black S swung, and Atomic dodged. But more than that, he easily severed the arm. The samurai credited his wealth of experience. After hacking dozens of shape-changing monsters apart, Atomic Samurai was pretty used to this sort of fight. But unexpectedly, the severed limb began to distort and shift. It became a second, larger Black S. Seeing that the monster was also the splitting type, Atomic concluded that this one would be really annoying to deal with. Hearing that, Black S asked the hero if he's a total idiot. He explained that he is an unlimited collection of himself. He sprouted 6 more heads. No matter how many times he's cut, torn, crushed, hit, or twisted, Black S would continue to multiply. Regardless, Atomic cut through the many heads at once. His solution to unlimited enemies was to hit them with unlimited attacks. The big one told him to try it and find out. With an atomic slash, the monster was cut into tiny pieces. But as the body fell apart, many faces suddenly grew on each chunk of flesh. Atomic was surrounded by monsters, but he swiftly cut them apart too. Now there were even more monsters around him. With this many, the hero needed to lock in. With an atomic slash, they were all torn to bits. By then, Atomic's field of vision was monopolized by nothing but Black S cells. The monster let him know that his death was imminent. One of the cells was the first to land a hit. Just that was enough to draw blood. Despite his size, Black S was packing some insane power. Atomic admitted to misjudging the monster's strength. Against this many, he was in serious trouble. They attacked him from all sides while he was in the midst of preparing his own attack. Blood gushed, but with a space-making atomic slash, he tore apart all the cells that were too close for comfort. With a bloody grin, he welcomed more challengers. To Black S, resistance was pointless. They leapt towards him yet again. But this time, Atomic had a surprise overhead. He cut the ceiling, and now it was caving in on them. Elsewhere, Saitama met overgrown Rover. Rover launched several beam attacks like it had against Garo. Saitama let down from above and told the big dog to be quiet at night. He told the dog to sit and gave it a mean wallop. Because of that, Zombie Man felt rumbling. He wondered about the current situation. Then there was a man behind him who asked if he was wondering about how the other heroes were dying. Zombie Man turned in surprise. When did this disheveled man get so close? Before he knew it, Zombie Man was being attacked. He was incinerated by a sudden outrush of power. This is Homeless Emperor, a disaster-level dragon monster who strived to deliver instant death. Homeless Emperor was controlling several orbs of power. He read that there are currently 17 S-Class heroes and was sure that he could defeat them all by himself. But Zombie Man told the monster not to get ahead of himself. An injured Zombie Man stood up with a blade in hand. Homeless Emperor was amused. He pointed a finger gun and hit Zombie Man point blank. The hero's head was smoldering, but Zombie Man was no stranger to smoking, so he raised his pistol all the same. But before he knew it, several orbs of light were all around. There was a massive explosion, and Zombie Man was at the center of it all. The smoke began to clear, and now the monster's posture wasn't so relaxed. He supposed that this was to be expected of one of the top heroes. To be so resilient towards death, Homeless Emperor had to commend his opponent's strength. Zombie Man was totally charred. Even so, he spoke to the man. He asked the guy how his magic works. This monster was way too strong, so he really needed to stall for time. Homeless Emperor was surprised to see that the rumors about Zombie Man's immortality weren't just exaggerations. He created another ball of light in acknowledgement of the hero's question. The monster agreed to tell his story. He admitted that until about a month ago, he spent his days sleeping in a public park. He used a children's slide as a bed and would stare at the sky all day. After losing his job and being forced out of his home, Homeless Emperor became a hermit who avoided others. He remembered how his boss made him dance in his birthday suit at the new employee welcome party. And although he was fired for that HR nightmare, he didn't feel any resentment while staring at the sky. He became in touch with nature and accepted how small humans are in the grand scheme of things. That his home wasn't any one place, but the earth itself. From there, he began to notice how severely humans deviate from nature's intentions. He couldn't believe he'd ever abided by such nonsense in the first place. He desperately wanted to resist, to free himself from such a terrible world and return to nature. Death seemed to be the only path for him. But that all changed when he met God. God agreed with his assessment that humans are foolish, but he didn't see a reason for the man to die. Instead, God would grant him power. Power that the man would know what to do with. In essence, Homeless Emperor's power was divinely given to him by God because he knew the answer. Because humans are such a blight on the planet, he would be the one to totally erase their existence. To that, Zombie Man asked how he knew for sure that he was talking to God and if the guy had ID. Unfortunately, the monster finished talking before he was done healing, so he was doing his best to stall for time. Instead, Homeless Emperor accepted that Zombie Man was a non-believer and was done talking. At the same time, Saitama was surprised to learn that he was living near such a big underground facility. On the other hand, Sweet Mask was staring down a long corridor and knew he wasn't alone. A figure emerged and launched itself closer. It laughed while Sweet Mask acknowledged its speed and the likelihood that it was special. He froze when he got a good look. Then he was sent back by a heavy blow to the face. The number 1 A-class hero shielded himself. This was the worst kind of situation. He was struck from behind. This was the worst kind of evil. The figure asked the hero why he was shivering and if he knew what he was getting himself into by coming here. To himself, Sweet Mask accepted that this was not a monster he could possibly defeat. At the same time, the monster recognized the handsome hero, who he hates most of all. After all, they both make girls scream, but for different reasons. This hideous freak is Fuhrer Ugly, a disaster-level dragon monster. Sweet Mask knew for sure that the monster was strong and a kind of Ugmon. An Ugmon is a type of monster, especially ugly humans who are bullied and rejected enough to become evil monsters. Sweet Mask couldn't win because the sight of extreme ugliness made his body shiver and freeze up. At the same time, Pig God was munching away. He reached into his bag of chips, but then he noticed something. He was totally out of chips. And so he totally missed the massive maw behind him. The creature bit down and ate him whole. Gums, a disaster-level dragon monster, belched in triumph. But his stomach stretched horribly as its contents resisted. As you can imagine, the sensation was terrible. Gums ejected the hero from its stomach, and so Pig God was spat on the ground with force. The hefty hero rolled and his eyes shone. He stood up covered in saliva and now producing his own. The lumps of lard collided and their fight commenced. By this point, Saitama felt like he traveled pretty far down. Based on what he'd seen so far, he wondered if something more might be going on here. Either way, as a member of the neighborhood, he wouldn't leave before issuing a complaint about the noise at this time of night. Something else was nearby. Flashy Flash heard Saitama coming towards him. Since he wasn't one of the summoned heroes, the ninja wondered if it might be a monster. Based on its footprints, it was clearly defenseless. He figured that one quick attack would be enough to get the job done. Meanwhile, Darkshine found Puri Puri prisoner with his muscles destroyed. He wanted to know who was responsible. Prisoner was pretty sure it was Garo. He warned his fellow hero to be careful since one attack was all it took for him to end up like this. And even then, it seemed like the monster still had plenty of room left to grow. Even an S-class hero would have a hard time fighting him alone. Honestly, Prisoner was worried that even Darkshine wouldn't be able to handle him. That's just how dangerous Garo seemed to be. He knew it might not sound like much coming from the weakest S-class hero, but he wanted Darkshine to keep the reality of his defeat in mind. Darkshine agreed. He also promised to give Garo a good beatdown in Prisoner's stead. Prisoner was touched and began to blush. Darkshine begged the man not to fall for him, otherwise his muscles would shrivel up. To himself, Darkshine was excited to know that there might actually be an opponent he could use his full power against. Elsewhere, there was Child Emperor. He couldn't believe it. Atomic Samurai's disciples were all down for the count, but that made him wonder why they weren't with their master. Even he's fought the trio and beaten them in the past, but this was still strange. They were still alive, but severely injured. Iayan called out to him. When he saw that the boy was alone, he told him to run while he still could. Their assailant was still nearby. As Child Emperor processed his words, he noticed something coming. He jumped out of the way, just barely managing to dodge. The monster was back. Iayan told the kid to run since victory was impossible. Child Emperor was confused. Was the monster even alive? How the heck did this thing beat the three swordsmen? It looked like a weak slime from Dragon Quest. This was Evil Natural Water, a disaster-level dragon monster. Its eyes floated around before menacingly focusing on the young hero. But rushing back, we'd see Flashy Flash on the attack with a lightspeed slash. Saitama noticed his approach. He dodged, and the ninja was shocked. Saitama was confused. Getting a better look, Flashy Flash realized that he wasn't fighting a monster after all. He actually recognized him. This was the same B-class hero he saw at the meeting before the alien invasion. To himself, Flash wondered what the man was doing here, while Saitama wanted to know who the heck he was. But the ninja hero had a bigger concern on his mind. How the hell did this B-class hero dodge his lightspeed slash? What kind of ridiculous reaction speed was that? Flashy Flash began to sweat. Was there really someone who could move faster than his lightspeed slash? Or was it just a fluke? Should he try it again to be sure? Saitama was getting more pissed off by the second. The guy was just staring at him and not saying anything. Flashy Flash held himself back. After all, what would happen if he accidentally killed a fellow hero? More peeved than before, Saitama asked who the hell he's staring at. But Flashy Flash was still wrestling with the possibility that his lightspeed slash may have been dodged. If so, then that would mean that the man can see through his moves. And that was unacceptable. Not to mention the mysterious, overpowering pressure he was feeling. Yeah, Saitama had enough. He was going to beat this stranger up. Flashy Flash tried again. Saitama caught the blade. Now Flash was really sweating. But since he attacked first, Saitama assumed he must be a monster and was ready to end him. Quickly, Flashy Flash asked the bald hero to take a closer look. Does he really look like a monster? Going along with the sudden trivia, Saitama came up with a monster name for him: Four Locks in the Face. But that was rejected. Flashy Flash tried to look cool while introducing himself as an S-class hero. When Saitama mentioned the fact he was attacked twice, Flashy Flash said that his hand slipped. Saitama asked what an important S-class hero was doing in a place like this. He also asked if they were the ones making all the noise. Flashy Flash couldn't believe the man came without knowing. He explained that they're inside the hideout of an especially evil monster group. He told the weaker hero that he should probably go home. And over at Saitama's home, Genos was just informed by Sitch that all the members of the Monster Association are above disaster-level demon. And this was according to Child Emperor's prior investigation. They're an organization of monsters meant to fight the Hero Association. Fubuki was sweating. A single disaster-level demon requires careful planning and several heroes willing to risk their lives to be defeated. 17 of those, on top of the hero-hunting monster Garo, was terrifying. But hearing about Garo, Bang and Bomb prepared themselves to go. Bomb was rearing for revenge. Genos figured that between the martial arts brothers, King, and himself, enemies around the Sea King's level would be simple enough. But he feared the possibility of disaster-level dragons being among their enemies. He imagined that the only ones who could handle that level without issues would be King and Saitama, whereas the other S-class heroes could actually end up dying. Unfortunately, Genos' worst fears were coming true. There are many disaster-level dragons, and the heroes are falling fast. Is this the end of the line for the S-class heroes? Next time, it's Tatsumaki versus everyone.